Your Honors, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the Parks were playing a game of chance before their kids got their hands on a gun. Now, this is the story of two 11-year-olds alone in the home of the Parks. The two 11-year-olds were playing alone. It's about 9:30 a.m. and they got bored. So, as two 11-year-olds, they found something to do. And in this case, they decided to play a game of chance. This game of chance, roulette. Now, they both did the same exact things. They picked up a revolver. They spun the cylinder to this revolver. They aimed the revolver at each other's heads. And they both pulled the trigger. It is incredibly unfortunate that in this game of chance, Sydney Park lost her life. And for that, the defense has deep sympathies for the Park family. But as we heard today, it was the Parks who were playing a game of chance before their kids ever got their hands on this gun. The plaintiff came before you and they had a burden to prove. There are 4 separate elements that they had to prove. The first element is that Hayden Duran knew or should have known the need to prevent Jesse from creating an unreasonable risk of harm. Second, that Hayden Duran failed to exercise reasonable control over Jesse. Third, that Jesse acted in a case of negligence, intention, or recklessness. And lastly, that the actions of Jesse Duran or the inactions of Hayden Duran were the direct and proximate cause of the harm suffered by the Parks family. We, as the defense, have taken on a separate burden. Now, we are raising an affirmative defense, which is to say that we have shown you that if it wasn't for the actions of the Parks family, then none of this would have been even possible in the first place. Which is to say that we must prove to you, or we have proved to you, by a preponderance of the evidence, which is more likely than not, by as little as 50% in a feather's weight, that the actions of Andy Park were what directly led up, and were what was directly leading to make possible of what happened on August 18, 2010. Now let's talk about the evidence that we heard in trial today. We first heard from the plaintiff's witness, Danny Brooks. Now, Danny Brooks told you that Sydney Park was the one who knew where the gun was. That Sydney Park knew where the combination to get into the safe was. Sydney Park knew where the safe was in the first place. Danny Brooks also came before you and told you that the combination was in an unlocked drawer. It was somewhere that Sydney could have accessed it any day of the week, any day in her life. Danny Brooks also told you that Andy Park said that it was good for the two children to play with each other, that there was no need to prevent Jesse from entering the home, and for that reason, Andy Park allowed Jesse Duran to stay in their home on August 18th unsupervised. Andy Park allowed 2 11-year-old children that knew there was a gun in the house to stay in their home unsupervised. Now, Andy Park had few chances to make sure that this never happened. Andy Park had the chance to lock the safe, to lock the cabinet. Andy Park had the chance to move the combination after Sydney had asked her. Andy Park had the chance to move the gun. Andy Park took none of those chances. Next, we heard from Jules Sebastian. Now, Jules Sebastian was the lead investigator in today's case, the forensics investigator. And Jules Sebastian came to tell you that, yes, it was indeed, in fact, Jesse Duran who pulled the trigger on that day. Now, the defense does not contest that. But what Jules Sebastian was not able to tell you was that Hayden Duran was acting in any way that was negligent, that Jesse Duran was acting in any way that was intentional. The two elements in this case of the plaintiff that are incontestable. Now, we also heard from a few defense witnesses. Now, Jesse Duran came before you and told you that she did the exact same thing that Sydney had done, that it was Sydney who told her where the gun was, that Sydney told her where the combination was, that Sydney who was able to pick up the gun and load the revolver just like her. Now, and this is where, now this goes to prove that Andy Park's actions, or rather his inactions, were what directly led up to the shooting. As expert Dr. DeRosa came before you and told you, no access to the gun means no accident with the gun. It is our burden in today's trial to prove to you that Andy Park had several chances, that Andy Park was equally or more culpable in the events leading up to this accident. Andy Park could have prevented this accident. Please find in favor of the defense.
Plaintiff's counsel, do you have any rebuttal?